William and Kate made an appearance at the Royal Variety Show yesterday, and while I will say the dress was exquisite, Kate appeared shockingly thinner than ever, if that was even possible. Her emaciated condition was so far gone that even her most ardent fans found it difficult to ignore. She was practically concave. Her waist appeared to be collapsing into itself. Her arms disproportionately larger than the rest of her body until you realize that you are looking at her bones. And at this point, it's fairly obvious that no one around her is going to do anything to help her. Not her mom, not her sister, not her husband, and certainly not Camilla. She is in desperate need of help and possibly even hospitalization. And this is really serious, folks. I brought this up before in a few other videos. Now, what is the end game here at Kensington Palace? Are they just gonna wait for this girl to, well, which brings me to the topic of today's discussion. Kate says Adelaide Cottage is cursed. So now, of course, I want to know what happened at Adelaide Cottage for her to come to that conclusion. Adelaide Cottage, by the way, is supposedly where she was staying, according to the press, when she was missing last year. Now, I say according to the press because honestly, you just don't know with these people if they are lying or not. But according to the press, Kate was staying at Adelaide Cottage during the time of her convalescence from what was reported to be abdominal surgery. Other reports state that she was staying with her mom, or maybe her mom was staying with her. I don't know. But clearly, something unpleasant happened at Adelaide Cottage. Otherwise, why would she say the place was cursed? I distinctly recall reading one silly little report about how William was propping up her pillow while she was recovering at Adelaide. It's in one of my very early videos. I can't remember which one right now, but it's still there. But I remember thinking at the time, God, this just sounds so fake. And this was when people were just starting to take notice that this girl hadn't been seen in a while. Since Christmas, in fact. There was the viral cell phone convoy video. And by the way, I have no idea if Kate was in that convoy at all. She had last been seen doing the Christmas Day walk at Sandringham, which is about 2 hours away from where the convoy was seen. But these people take helicopters everywhere. And this was like, 3 days after Christmas? So I don't know. I just know that it was apparently heading toward a hospital, and the person who uploaded it surmised that based on the vehicles in the convoy and its location in proximity to Windsor, the occupant may well have been a member of the royal family. So from there, everybody just assumed that it must have been Kate, because after that, nobody saw her again for 6 months. Now, during that time, William was acting weird. People started taking notice that this girl's not been around for a while. Nobody's seen her. And that's the thing, they kept reporting on sightings, but nobody actually saw her. And William is now acting like the prime suspect in an episode of Columbo, and the story really started to build momentum.
We send money to them. I think we are owed an explanation. I think anyone in this Commonwealth, I'm being serious, are now owed an explanation. She's a Princess of Wales. She's on duty. What is going on here? Why the secrecy? And quite frankly, I think it lends to an even bigger discussion of whether or not we want to be a part of this, whatever this thing is, going forward. That, to me, that's the next step. Every day there's silence on this. This is a story. I've never seen anything like this. This is the worst PR disaster I have ever seen someone self-inflict upon their own organization. This is madness. All people are looking for is just a little bit of proof that everything's fine. They won't even give it to us. This is insane.
But like Tammy said, they said that she will not make a public appearance until Easter. So I think, to your point, though I'm curious, I don't think we...
Then, you may recall, at the height of the frenzy, we had the body double scandal. So, at one point, they tried to tell us that this girl was Kate. Remember this, folks? Even the TMZ reporter who broke the story had to admit that it wasn't her.
So yesterday, we posted a video on our website. that, like that, went around the world. This is, by appearances at least, Kate Middleton out in the wild with her husband, William. This is about a mile from their home where they went grocery shopping, and you see Kate looking relaxed, smiling, carrying a bag, which is interesting if she did indeed have abdominal surgery.
Right.
So she looks great.
Where's the security?
Where is the security? That's a good question. And why is it, with all the people that were there, this is the only video that surfaced, a video that we secured? Why is it that they're in...
Anyway, the press was really embarrassed about this. Folks, do you know how I know the press was embarrassed about this? Because they won't say anything more about it. They've just completely stopped talking about it. So why did Kensington Palace try to pass this girl off as Kate? There was no security around them. They didn't enter or exit any vehicle, which was weird. They just kept on walking to God knows where. And you can't say it was just a random British couple who happened to bear a similar resemblance to William and Kate, because Kensington Palace actually approved of this. They neither confirmed nor denied that it was them.
In terms of reporting the fact that they went out to the Windsor farm shop a few days later, they knew that if they went out there in public, mingled with members of the public, they would be seen and potentially photographed, because everyone's got a camera phone now, and that's how it happened. It wasn't a photographer, it was a camera phone. And of course, I was in discussions with the palace all along with that, and there was no problem with it.
It was clear that it was a big hoax, the first in a string of hoaxes that were to follow. And then she returned after 6 months, and she was much changed. Now, before her resurfacing, she appeared on a bench where she stated that during her surgery, cancer had been present. I believe those were her exact words. And that she had to undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy. You remember the video where she was seated on a bench in some kind of digital universe where everything in the background was perfectly still. And Kate was speaking perfectly well with perfect diction, something that happens about as often as a lunar eclipse. Now, Kate is known to rarely give addresses. She appeared before a work task force summit yesterday, where she struggled to get through a prepared speech. I'm telling you, she's not that different from William. That's probably why they initially gravitated towards each other. That and alcohol. But according to the press, Kate has not given an address in 2 years. So, is the press now somehow admitting that this was not really her, and it was in fact what most people suspect to be an AI rendering? And speaking of AI, she finally released her autumn video, even though we're practically in winter, and it was pretty apparent that this too is probably another cloned AI voiceover.
The energy of summer withdraws into autumn.
I came across this report about Camilla mockingly referring to Kate's cancer-free video, you know, the one she released last year, as a shampoo commercial. Now that alone should tell you all you need to know about what these people really think about her so-called cancer diagnosis. But I digress. So anyway, look, as far as everyone was aware, according to the reports, she was at home at Adelaide Cottage recovering from her abdominal surgery. This was all we were told for a while. Then I came across this report the other day that states that she thinks the place was cursed. And my ears just perked up a bit. Like, wait a minute, Adelaide Cottage is cursed? So now I want to know what the hell happened there. What happened at Adelaide Cottage for Kate to say the place is cursed? Because those are some very strong words. It's been obvious she's been trying to get out of there for a while. Now, folks, take a look at this place and then look at Forest Lodge. I'd be willing to bet anything that Kate or Carol, same person at this point, didn't try to get their hands on this property at some point. Now, this place makes Forest Lodge quite frankly look like a dump. This is Bagshot Park, the residence of the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. And apparently Edward and Sophie, along with Andrew, have this peppercorn rent arrangement. First time I'd ever heard of that phrase, by the way. Isn't that nice, folks? Never has it been more apparent how much of a scam this all is. So anyway, she's finally out of there and into Forest Lodge. And apparently, she couldn't get out of Adelaide Cottage fast enough because according to the press, the couple moved in ahead of schedule. The press reported, I think it was last week, that she and William finally made their move. And I want you to put a mental asterisk there, folks. I'll talk about that a little later. She finally moves into Forest Lodge ahead of schedule, and it's all hush-hush and ultra-secretive. One report even claims that it's off the grid, which I'm not really sure how that's possible or why that's even necessary. I mean, are they saying that Forest Lodge has its own well, its own electric grid, its own sewage system? Really? What would be the purpose of doing that? Why would they need that kind of privacy? Then there are other reports that state that there's no live-in staff. Folks, what are they hiding? Why are they being so secretive? But I'm assuming that now she's happy, she's finally out of that cursed Adelaide Cottage. She's got her new house, or rather her forever home. And folks, don't you find the term forever home kind of strange? Doesn't it sound kind of terminal? Nobody lives anywhere forever. People by nature move around, especially the royals. I mean, they seem to have an awful lot of homes. It sounds like it's, a final resting place or something. Doesn't that seem kind of off? But then again, maybe this is going to be the house where she finally disappears. I don't know. It's clear that it's her house. But I don't know how that's going to work because, you see, she can only have this house as long as she's Princess of Wales. What happens if she gets a divorce from her husband? Is she still actually entitled to anything? Because if the two of them split up, he could just take it back from her because it's considered grace and favor. Unless, of course, like I said, they've worked out some other kind of arrangement where assets changed hands and Carol Middleton, through her daughter, now owns 150 acres of land in Windsor Great Park. Windsor Park seems like a really swanky, super private, ultra exclusive neighborhood where you have to be a royal to live there. Everybody else gets kicked out, They don't want any ruffians living next to them. Precisely the kind of place Carol Middleton would want to show the world that she's finally arrived. Carol has long wanted a foothold in Windsor, and now she's got it. Through Kate. Remember, it was through Kate that she got William to agree to help her purchase her Berkshire Manor house with his inheritance money from his mom. And now, let's just say she's moving on up. Now, this is just my opinion, of course, but a few weeks back, the report stated that 150 acres of land in Windsor Great Park was to be permanently closed off to the public in order to create a security zone for Kate. This was the reason the press gave to explain why 150 acres of land that the public had previously enjoyed, including a nature center for children, was to be permanently revoked in order for Kate to have a 150-acre security buffer zone. Now, why does Kate need a 150-acre security buffer zone? Really, people? Is Kate Middleton's life that much in danger? No, I'm serious. Why does Kate need a 150-acre buffer zone for her security? Charles doesn't even have a 150-acre buffer zone for his security, and he's the king. That's when it hit me. This is a land grab. This is a Middleton land grab. They've tried everything else and failed. They tried the party pieces business. That was going okay for a while, but it was a small business, and they weren't exactly titans of industry. They were just small business owners and they probably made a little money, but not without the help from Michael Middleton's trust fund. Because look, folks, you can't imagine selling party supplies brings in that much money. I mean, I'm sure it can be a profitable business, but it's also an extremely competitive business. Now, I'm not saying Carol isn't a hardworking woman. She probably is, but this woman has been trying to get her hands on something for a long time. Carol is very much working behind the scenes here because Kate is not making all these decisions. Folks, do you get the impression that Kate is in any kind of condition to make a decision? The girl is wasting away. She's just being told what to do and where to go, and she's perfectly fine with it as long as you call her Catherine and not Kate. This is her big issue, her big bugaboo. She hates when people call her Kate, and I don't understand what's wrong with calling her Kate. That's the name William called her. That's the name the press calls her. That's the name people have called her all her life. Did you see this, folks? The BBC had to issue an apology because Kate's bot army decided to make a big deal out of absolutely nothing, prompting actual users to jump on the bandwagon as if calling someone the name they were given at birth is some kind of insult, something to be outraged about. The BBC actually issued an apology for this poor hapless reporter who committed the egregious offense of simply calling her what everybody else calls her. And folks, this was actually kind of funny. Take a look at this. The BBC apologized for calling Kate Middleton, Kate Middleton. Now tell me they're not taking the piss. Talk about embarrassing. This is embarrassing. Because what is she running away from? What's wrong with her name? Why is she so desperate to run away from who she is? And I'm just wondering, what's the big deal? We all know who she is. Why is she so insecure? For years, the press cruelly labeled her Waity Katie. This was before they found a new target to torment. And then the more I look into it, the more I'm beginning to understand what's really going on here. Kate is trying to replace Diana. Because for most people, including myself, when I hear the title Princess of Wales, the first person I think of is Diana. Kate is, well, Kate. Because Kate will never be Diana. Diana had heart. She was authentic and kind. She was hard working. And most of all, she wasn't ashamed to show her vulnerability. She wasn't afraid to call awareness to injustice, including the injustice that happened to her. Kate will never do that. She is too scared. But she will hide behind her army of digital loyalists attempting to rebrand her as Princess of Wales. And it just goes to show that titles mean nothing if the person who occupies the title is lacking character. And it's sad because she doesn't look happy at all. She looks like a sad woman. It doesn't look like she's eaten anything in a while, which I'm sure would make anybody cranky. This girl must be incredibly repressed. Because now that I think about it, Kate must have seen some things. She's been around this guy. Kate and William have spent an awful lot of time around Andrew. Let's just lay it all out there. I don't see any pictures of Harry hanging out with Andrew or taking Andrew to church. I don't see Andrew coming to visit him and Megan in Montecito. I don't see that happening. But I have seen William and Kate on at least 3 or 4 different occasions getting very close with this guy. And I'm wondering if that's what all this Sussex hate is about. Pulling attention away from this guy who, by the way, nothing has happened to him. He hasn't lost anything. He still, in fact, holds his titles. Tells you all you need to know about the worthlessness of those titles. He still gets an annual allowance. He still gets to live in a big mansion. And he's demanding servants and a secretary to boot. Now, what does he need a secretary for exactly? What, to coordinate the comings and goings of his nightly guests? They're trying to deflect attention away from Andrew's ongoing depravity to take attention away from themselves because they know something, which makes a little bit of that depravity rub off on them as well. And finally, I want to address this little incident that revealed quite a bit of info, what I call the Poppy address incident, and it just shows how amateurish these people are, folks. Okay, so William was giving this address right after the Remembrance Day thing, where he was telling everybody this very important message that they must wear a poppy. If you're not wearing a poppy, then you're not one of us, kind of thing. Anyway, so William is giving this address, and multiple press outlets picked it up and began reporting something to the effect of, royal fans get a sneak peek into William and Kate's new digs over at Forest Lodge. Except when you look closely, the background of the room where he's giving the address appears not to be at Forest Lodge, but in fact, Windsor Castle. And of course, the public picked up on it right away. The press later had to backtrack and issue a correction that it was not, in fact, Forest Lodge, which we knew all along. But why did the press say it was Forest Lodge in the first place? Well, because they are the same ones who kept telling us that William and Kate were moving to their new forever home. William and Kate are moving to Forest Lodge, when it's really just Kate. And now they have to admit it to themselves, at least they'll never admit it to us, that William is probably not with her at Forest Lodge. So where's he staying then? Now we know that this was Windsor Castle and that he probably spends most of his time over at Kensington Palace because that's where the helicopter usually picks him up from, to take him a few miles down the road or something. Now who else spends a lot of time at Kensington Palace? Oh yeah, that's right, Jason. Jason's formal place of work is Kensington Palace. And now it makes a lot more sense why William isn't at Forest Lodge. Because William seems very distant from his wife. She didn't travel with him to Brazil for Earthshot for the second year in a row, but they did manage to spend some time together at the Royal Variety Show. Here they are, sitting together, and William's eyes look like he is so far away from that place that he may as well be on the moon. Kate looks like she's enjoying the show, but look at him. What is he thinking about? Who is he thinking about? Now, I don't think it's Rose because, look, folks, I'm going to give my honest opinion here. I don't think that he and Rose, that they are still in a relationship. Personally, I doubt that Rose wants any of that life. She's got money, and more importantly, she has her freedom. I think they probably had a fling some time ago, which made Kate have a falling out with her. But I don't think that's still going on. If it was still going on, there would be more sightings of them together. Nah, I think William's got his mind on someone else. Okay, last thing that I'm going to end this video. To the commenter who said that Harry was nothing but a low-level grunt soldier or something like that, who failed all his exams while William passed all of his. Look, I don't know where you get off disparaging anybody's military service. You do know that Harry is a 2-time combat veteran, an Apache helicopter pilot who saw action in Afghanistan twice. Unlike William, who never used his military helicopter to go from party to party, like William did, who never landed his military helicopter on his girlfriend's front lawn to impress her family, enraging his commanding officers. Harry never did any of that, but William did though. How dare you? How dare you insult his service? I don't even know if what you said is true, and frankly, it's not even worth checking. Because the petty royals can strip him of his rank, but they can never take away his service. And what's the purpose of passing an exam anyway if you're not going to go into battle? What, to be an ornamental toy soldier like William, who never saw combat? You people love calling Harry a traitor, but Harry actually fought for his country voluntarily twice. Not William, like a little wooden ornament hanging off a Christmas tree, like the rest of them, standing around with a bunch of medals pinned to their chests for service they never actually gave. You know, you claim that the algorithm keeps pushing my content on you, but is the algorithm forcing you to watch my video all the way to the end? Wow, that's some powerful algorithm. Anyway, folks, enough of that. I have a few announcements to make. I think I'm gonna try doing a live show. I don't know, guys. Would you show up for my live show? Let me know if I'm not just going to be screaming into the void, which may not be such a bad idea. Sit there and scream into the void. Anyway, folks, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you all in the next one.